Hello everybody. Today we are going to be talking about ecotourism. Now, what is ecotourism? Ecotourism is a type of tourism that is designated to contribute to the protection of the environment or at least minimize damage to it, often involving travel to areas of natural interest in developing countries or participation in environmental projects. The eco part of ecotourism focuses on ecological and economical projects. And the whole goal of ecotourism is to minimize social and environmental costs while promoting economic benefits. Now, to give a little history on ecotourism started gaining traction in the 1980s in Costa Rica. Prior to ecotourism, Costa Rica relied heavily on agriculture. However, this led to rampant deforestation and it started to affect the environment. Once ecotourism became popular there, locals started to promote the beautiful jungles much more, and this led to a flourishing ecotourism industry that brought new jobs and a newfound respect for the natural environment. So where can we find ecotourism besides Costa Rica? Well, because ecotourism aims to improve economic, environmental, and social factors, it works best in communities where the natural environment is mostly preserved and the local people can benefit from a wider variety of jobs. Developing countries and communities are the most common places to find ecotourism because of this. These places include Costa Rica, Indonesia, Malaysia, Ecuador, Botswana, South Africa, and many more. However, it's not just in developing countries. Ecotourism is also found in many countries that already hold their natural environment with high regards. Countries like Finland, Iceland, and New Zealand are perfect fits for this. The norms and values of most Scandinavian countries favor sustainable living, and other places like Iceland have a huge focus on clean energy. These ways of life fit perfectly with the core concept of ecotourism, so it often thrives in these situations. So, what are some of the ecological benefits and advancements? Well, local communities respect the environment, and conservation is and recycling are a huge aspect of this. For example, there's a hotel called El Establo in Monteverde, Costa Rica, and they make sure the electricity is turned off in rooms if nobody's in the room. When you get the majority of the establishments and individuals in a community making just small improvements, just like the one in El Establo, the whole community will just benefit immensely. And the respect also leads to many restoration projects. This can range from reforestation to coral restoration. One great example of the coral restoration projects are the projects around Soraya Besar in Indonesia. These have been a great success. Conservation organizations, locals, and tourists come together to be a part of the project and they help bring new life to the dying reefs. Some other examples of this respect include that farmers often opt for organic compounds for agriculture because they know how harmful some of those substances are to soil. And furthermore, local guides often teach about the environment and how to keep it healthy. The tour guides will not just show you the environment, they'll teach you about it, teach you the history and what goes on, so you'll not only be observing the environment, you'll be learning about it as well. Now, one of the most important benefits of ecotourism is the protection of biodiversity. Now, there are many educational programs for tourists and locals that help promote the importance of biodiversity in an ecological community. In the San Juan La Selva Biological Corridor, new local landowners have set up tours and informational sites to learn about birding routes and the great green macaw. The locals, they realize that this species is a great part of their history and their heritage, and they try to do everything they can to teach about these species and help them from going extinct. Another way to protect the biodiversity is with laws. Laws set by government are some of the most popular ways to prevent the loss of biodiversity. These include stuff like poaching laws in Africa. However, we know that laws don't always work. Luckily, some local landowners set aside part of the land and protect the natural life there. One example of this is in Kenya. There's large areas of Kenya protected by small landowners who pledge their land to communal conservation zones. So then franchise safari camps pay landowners according to the number of tourists they take. This is great because the landowners get money for having their land be conserved, and the presence of tourists helps protect against poachers, which is a huge problem in areas like Kenya. So, Moving on from the ecological benefits, we'll look into some of the economical benefits. The ecotourism industry opens up a wide variety of new jobs that wouldn't be available to locals otherwise. This includes stuff like tour guides, hotel staff, souvenir producers, or project managers and staff for ecotourism. Furthermore, locals can open up businesses for themselves rather than working for large international tourism corporations. They can open up hotels and restaurants on their own land, or they can just take the land and take tourists through property tours, show them the natural beauty, all the different species you have living there, maybe some agriculture you have going on, or reforestation projects, all ways to make monies off the natural land. And one way to quantify the economical benefits is the increase of GDP as ecotourism revenue becomes a stable part of a nation's economy. In 2011, ecotourism accounted for 8.4% of Costa Rica's GDP, and later on, in 2017, ecotourism made an astounding 102 billion in revenue USD for Iceland. And another example in Botswana is that tourism is the second largest source of income behind diamond mining. This shows that the industry is very good at making money and being profitable, so for countries that don't have many other options, it might be a great way to start moving towards. So we've talked about some of the ecological benefits and the economical benefits, but now we'll talk about the most cutting edge innovations and what we can hope for in the future of ecotourism. There are new subsects of ecotourism popping up that focus on specific aspects of a community. One of these includes agritourism. Agritourism involves small-scale projects that get tourists involved in the rural agriculture of a region. These new innovations are a great opportunity for tourists to learn more about the local culture, and they're also a great help for the farmers. There are also very cool little interactive programs for locals and tourists. One of these, like we talked about earlier, would be coral reef restoration, where people come in to restore life to the reefs and help the fishing communities in the area. Another great one of these interactive programs is the Green Tourism of Finland organization. Now, this organization is actually a group of ecotourism organizations that are dedicated to sustainable development practices. These businesses offer a wide variety of information to tourists. This information ranges from hiking trails and facilities to a database on all the natural species found in Finland. So when you're on your adventures, you can find something, look it up in the database, learn about it, find its name, and appreciate it more. This tool is really great because it's a technologically advanced tool that's cutting edge for this tourism industry, and if more countries hop on this, like Finland does, it'll make tourism, especially to ecotourism locations, much more interesting. Finally, we have government incentive programs. These are programs like the Payment for Environmental Services programs, PES. This is when governments pay the locals who partake in environmentally friendly practices on their land. For example, in Costa Rica they have this, and if you reforest your land, help it with the reforestation of the natural jungles, they'll pay you some money. And this is great because you can use that money, or the locals can use that money to put it back into their land, make it more beautiful, and that'll attract more tourists, which it's like a cycle of attracting tourists and making the land more beautiful. That's exactly what we want from ecotourism. So I think that's about it for today, guys. I hope that you learned something from this, and maybe you'll be inspired to go travel to one of these destinations we talked about today and see what the natural beauty is like.